Hey, and we are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage, porn-free, civilly disobedient media. We're broadcasting at, well, euphemistically referred to as a homeless encampment here in Providence, the not-so-renaissance city today. Editorial note: if you see a homeless encampment, say nothing. It's not helpful that these are reported to the general authorities. There are a number of organizations like House of Hope CDC and the gentleman we're about to meet, their organization, that you can report these to, and two things will happen. A, they probably already know, and because regular sentences are taken by folks in the support community, and B, they will also ask you for some support in ways that you can actually help. So if you see something, say absolutely nothing. That editorial note was brought to you by the Coalition Radio Network. I have the great honor again of standing alongside Professor Hirsch. He is a professor at your Providence College. What's germane today, of course, is that there is a looming threat from the Providence Mayor Smiley's administration to execute a 48-hour notice to leave these encampments. What are your thoughts? Just let's be blunt. I also want to take a moment for you to let them know how people can help.
So the problem here is that the vacate order would remove people from this encampment without providing alternative shelter or housing. Mm-hmm. We would prefer that to be humane shelter that would then become permanent housing. Obviously, the way you end homelessness is to provide someone with a home. And the mayor has absolutely no interest in doing that. We asked him to identify buildings where shelter could be set up. We asked him to identify vacant lots where we could set up rapidly deployable shelter. And we demanded really, that he tell his police force not to harass people, not to damage their personal property, and not to issue any vacate orders. And he refused to acknowledge those demands. All he did was to have his chief of staff read a list of agencies that they've contracted with. They did nothing themselves. I don't think they've even been down to any of these things. They are only interested in removing people, and hopefully that would make the neighbors happy, and that would get him votes. That's what I think is going on.
We're in an industrial neighborhood, and I've been told by sources that know that not only is the folks at the school not impacted by this encampment, that there are members of the extended school family that are actively providing meals for folks living here multiple times a week. There's an actual effort to engage with the folks who find themselves here from members of the community. So, and Rhode Islanders are some of the most generous people on the planet. We do take care of our own. So why do you think there's this constant myth that there's some looming dark danger here to the city, when in fact it's a reality of city life? It's tragic.
I think there's a vocal minority who don't want to see people encamped like this. So I think they're the ones who get noticed, and that's why politicians jump on that bandwagon.
Well, we're in agreement with them. No one wants to see people living like this, do we?
No, we absolutely don't. And the way to deal with all of the problems is simply to provide people with housing. Mm-hmm. But I think the mayor seems to not really do anything that would help in that regard. He just says, well, that's the state's job. Well, no, it's your job too. Everyone has to help to solve this problem.
The city still has a deal on the table that was executed in conjunction with the Commerce Corporation of Rhode Island that would provide $5 million to the developer of the Superman building, as we call it here.
Right.
Are there better uses for $5 million than to bail out the failed investment of a wealthy property developer?
Yeah, I'd say very low-income housing would be a much better use of that money. Or let's turn the Superman building into very low-income housing, permanent supportive housing. Mm-hmm. I think that would be a much better use, and that's the greatest need.
Right.
And the only reason why that probably won't happen is because it's not as profitable for the developer.
Now, to a certain degree, this is, a Groundhog Day from last summer.
Yes.
Because we are approaching, and regardless of how you feel about climate change or weather issues, it's real. We are experiencing right now on this planet a period of time where we are facing weather extremes that we haven't in quite a while or ever. So
these people have experienced that with flooding that happened just a few nights ago,
right,
and extreme heat. Try being in a tent when it's 90 degrees, like 120 degrees inside that tent.
Right.
So,
and as difficult as it is, if the planning doesn't commence now for this winter, we will find ourselves facing another freeze like we did, and the state's response was to hastily open the armory,
right,
and provide substandard meals, inadequate facilities for if you will, physical needs of people. And do you see anything happening that will change that?
I hope that the new housing secretary will take that job more seriously and will be in better shape. That's my hope.
How can folks, regular Rhode Islanders, just walk past the fumbling, crumbling bureaucracy and just provide levels of support to organizations that are trained and have the logistics and the infrastructure to help these people? Where can some ideas where people can reach out?
I mean, House of Hope CDC is a good organization. They provide a lot of the outreach. Mm-hmm. So I would say call them, donate to that organization, and support their outreach efforts. And I think people can also call their mayor, call their city council and say, we understand there's a housing crisis, that there are people camped outside, and we support every effort to try to make sure that those people have shelter and housing options. That would be extremely important.
Great. Your organization, what's your organization called?
Rhode Island Homeless Advocacy Project. And it's a self-advocacy group. I'm just the interim director. I'm certainly not going to be the director. I've never been homeless myself, but I try to support the efforts of people who have.
Professor Eric Hirsch, of course, Providence College, but a multi-year advocate on behalf of those with less. You and I are of a similar age.
Yes.
And I just want to close off with this one last question. We're seeing a repeat, a rehash. It's the same old, same old. Just, all this change in the names. We're still having this conversation.
I know.
How do we change that?
So it's an institutional problem. It's a problem of that the market is not working to provide housing for about the lower half of the income distribution. And there needs to be, much more in the way of public subsidies to make sure that the lower half of the income distribution can get decent housing. And that hasn't happened because it's not profitable for developers, and developers tend to run particularly city politics. Mm-hmm. And I think in Rhode Island, to a certain extent, state politics as well. So that's the biggest problem. Homeless people can't contribute to campaigns. They don't have any lobbyists working on their behalf. And so they get left behind.
On that note, thank you, and we'll see each other again very soon.
Thanks, Pat.